Hey everyone, David C. Anderson here, coming at you from the Knife Center, and welcome to Knife AQ, episode 111, the knife series where I answer your questions, whether they're sharp or dull. This week, we're going to be taking a little bit of a walk down memory lane with some of yesterday's most popular knives. Let's check them out. All right, if you're new to this series, welcome. And the deal is you folks get to leave questions down in the comments section below these videos, and we go through and pick out a few to feature in subsequent episodes. So that's how you get your shot at having your question answered. Just drop it below. This week, as promised right at the beginning, our first question has to do with a bit of history. This was left on our best-selling new knives of 2022. That video we did a few weeks ago, I guess a month and a half ago, thereabouts.
Feels like a year.
It was last year. It was definitely last year.
That explains it.
That explains it. It's Thomas behind the camera. Everyone say hello. First question was left on that video by Eric Roadglide. I want to see the best-selling knives, whether they're new or old or whatever, for the year. Folders, fixed blades, everything. That's what I think is interesting. If the top 10 list would be of classics, then that's fine by me. Cool. Well, we're actually, I'm working on some stuff kind of in that direction for a future video, but today, as kind of a appetizer, shall we say, I have this right here. This is a catalog from a little over 20 years ago, right? 20, yeah. It's a little over 20 years old, this particular catalog. Belongs to our buyer here at the Knife Center when he worked at a previous knife selling outfit. And on the very inside of the front cover, which actually, let's take a look at this cover real quick. That's a walk down memory lane right here. We got old logo, like the old Benchmade logo, you know, CRKT back when they were still billing themselves primarily as Columbia River Knife and Tool. You got their old logo here. That old Cold Steel typeface. Just what warms the heart, doesn't it?
Man, he really used to clean out the garage.
Jason, he keeps all of this in his office upstairs. It's good stuff. It's a good reference, actually. And it gives us a chance to see stuff like this page right here. And we'll have to make sure Thomas gets some good angles of this because I'm just kind of going to look through. Here on the left, this is kind of cool. Kershaw, we've got the Chive, the Scallion, the Whirlwind, and the Blackout in their top sellers in 2022. And 2002. Thank you, Thomas.
We're coming from the future.
We are indeed. That is such a snapshot there. Those four knives in particular, when Ken Onion was just, and Kershaw in combination particularly, were just so dominant back then. I mean, even now to this day, Ken Onion is handily the best-selling designer that we carry anyway. We did a video a year and a half. Again, we'll find a link to this one as well.
Feels like a year and a half.
Of our top 10 best-selling designers. And we only looked at sales from like the preceding year when we did that video. And Ken Onion was still way, way out in front of everybody else. With more models than it was back in the day here, but just the sheer dominance of them back in the day. And the Chive and the Scallion are still being made in pretty much the same form as they were back then. You've got assisted opening, Ken Onion's speed safe design, in fact. You've got a liner lock on this particular Scallion. You've got a frame lock on this particular Chive. I'm getting that right, aren't I? They're all onions. Yes, I got it right. I've owned a Scallion before. I've never owned a Chive, but I did have, I think, one of the Damascus Scallions for a little while, which again is still made. These things are still going strong, not top sellers like they were 20 some years ago, but there's still a ton of different variants in the lineup for each of these, and they still move quite well. Just goes to show you the testament of Ken's design prowess. Like, he knows how to design a product for sure that is desirable. Bottom left, Becker Knife and Tool. Actually, we'll put that at the end. I got the fixed blades there at the end. What else we got? We've got a Case yellow synthetic Trapper, which is still on sale today, and testament to their popularity. We didn't have any on the shelf today when we were filming, but I do have a yellow synthetic Stockman here. Yellow synthetic is certainly not the far from the most exotic material that Case uses on their slip joints, but in all honesty, it's one of my favorites. There's kind of vintage, you know, blue collar aspect to it that I just really, really enjoy. Very cool stuff. What else do we have? Opening his page back up. Well, right in the middle, Smith & Wesson. We've got 3 SWAT liner locks and the HRT boot knife. The boot knife is still on sale, that same one, but we didn't have one on the shelf today too, because you guys had bought what we had. All of the SWAT folders have been kind of transitioned to some new designs, bit of a commodity thing with those. Most of the new ones have an assisted opening mechanism. I don't think those early ones did. Underneath, we've got the Mercator K55. Oh man, the black cat knife. I need to find more excuses to put this on the channel here because it is a classic. Still going strong. Let's see, where's the price on them is really, really nice. About 30 bucks for this, carbon steel or stainless. Simple stuff, obviously, at that price, but they are made in Solingen, Germany. You've got kind of classic, simple folding knife design. It's a folded handle, you know, the early integral, basically. And it has a backlock there, too, in a very slim carrying, at this point, retro package, too. And yet still a very, very capable thing. Yeah, need more excuses to put that on the show, for sure. What else? What else? Under the case, we have the CRKT PEC, which is part of the KISS lineup. We didn't have a PEC on the shelf today either, but that is also still being made, as well as the knife it was based on, the KISS. Which is Keep It Simple, stupid, of course. You all knew that. These go for about 30 bucks now. Actually, that's the KISS with the Tonto blade, 30 bucks. The PEC is like 27, still going. You know, simple materials there. We've got, what's the steel? We don't even have the steel listed on the site. I believe it's 8CR. To check on that, but really cool things. It's basically, you know, the Keep It Simple thing. It takes everything away you don't need to keep the knife still functional. You've got a frame lock, no front handle, and in order to keep it safe, that Tonto blade is chisel ground. So the edge itself sits perfectly, almost perfectly, flush on the back frame right there. Yet it still opens very easily with the one-handed thumb stud right there. You've got a pocket clip. You've got a very secure feeling small knife in the hand. It's not hand filling for sure, but feels pretty robust to this day. It's just a classic CRKT design for sure. And what else? We got we got a flashlight, the Photon micro lights, still going. And 2 fixed blades, the K-Bar, the classic 1217 USMC Fighter. This one has a little special edition lasering on the front. Still going strong, obviously. And you have the BK7 from Becker Knife and Tool, also still made. And this one is a really interesting thing to think back to 2002. Nowadays, the BK7 is made by K-Bar. Back in the day, at that point, Camillus, when Camillus was still a US company, was making it. In fact, that's another thing that kind of brings back memories, the old Camillus logo here on the front. Makes me happy. But the other cool thing about seeing the BK7 and the classic K-Bar fighting knife on the same page like that is when Ethan was kind of designing the BK7, one of the things in his mind was what he would do to, you know, quote unquote, fix the classic K-Bar or redesign the classic K-Bar knife. And you can definitely see from the sides and some of the design cues where the BK7 got it from. Very, very cool. Still a solid knife, a nice choice for survival folks, especially a couple of years ago. It had another kind of big surge going on. Still going strong. That's some cool stuff. I did the count. We had, what was it, 14, let's see, 4, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 products. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Only 5 of them are still, are not available 20 some years later. So 2/3 of the best sellers from 21 years ago, still selling, still around doing good things. It's pretty cool. It's no kind of point to all of that other than to say, that's neat. And I hope you found it neat too. All right, next question comes from user named Michael. Question, I recently, this was left on our video from earlier this week on using a coffee mug to sharpen your knives. It's not gonna work on Maximet, your really hard stuff, but simpler stuff. But he left this comment on that video. I recently watched a knife sharpening video by guys who constantly use knives as professional butchers, the bearded butchers. And at no time was finding or dealing with a burr ever mentioned. And one of the butchers flipped his blade edge over every stroke rather than doing several strokes on one side, as I showed in that video, then several strokes on the other. These guys' living depends on their knives, so why is a burr important to some but not others? Sure thing, I can talk about that. So this was the knife I used. If you use the bottoms, I should have brought that mug back in here as an example to show.
I washed it.
You washed it? That's good. Flip a mug over, there's an unglazed ring at the bottom, which is just bare ceramic. And guess what? We use ceramic sharpening rods all the time. It's the same stuff. And it's gonna work with lower hardness and lower wear resistant steels like on this small Wusthof kitchen knife that we also swiped from the kitchen over here because it was in real rough need of some attention. And it's not the most refined edge, but it is a lot better. But what I showed was doing several strokes on a side and several strokes on the other, but basically getting to a point where I could feel a burr along the whole edge. And that's really mostly important when you're initially setting the edge, especially on something that hasn't been sharpened in a long time. And the reason you want to do that is if you can feel the burr the whole way across, that means you don't have any dead spots. It means you've sharpened through to the edge at whatever angle you are using consistently. If you can't feel the burr all the way along and you just proceed without getting to that point, you might be cutting along and then you might have a section right here in the middle of the blade that is dull. We don't want that. So that's what I do and what I like to teach and recommend. Get to that point where you can feel the burr, then do the other side until you get it the same. And then I will switch to just alternating strokes. No hard and fast rule on how many you should do, but I usually do about 20 per side. Just kind of personal preference and what I've found works for me. Once you've got that burr the first time, as long as you're confident in your kind of consistency in hand sharpening, you don't need to kind of feel that burr every time. If you need to go back to the stones a little bit, you know how you're doing it, you're gonna do just fine. But you do have to know what you're doing. So those butchers, I'm sure they know all about finding a burr on an edge, but they're moving so fast and so practiced at it, they don't have to feel that burr every time to know that they're doing a good job. That'd be my conjecture. I haven't seen their channel personally, but that would be my guess as to what's going on there. Still, you know, the concepts are all the same, whether they're talking about that specific aspect or not. All right, now we come to the lightning round for today. David Axman says, does a long pointy blade like a Spyderco Native Chief make a Wharncliffe redundant? It almost has less belly than some modified Wharncliffes out there. I don't have a Native Chief, but I do have a good example here of a similar shape, the Manix 2 Lightweight, which, as you can see here, has screw together construction. These have been updated. I don't know if our site has the most recent photo or not. If so, or if not, make sure to get this over to our photographer, but if you've been waiting for that changeover, that has happened. And yes, I see your point, and I have kind of talked about this a little bit in the past. There is a little bit of belly here, but you've got this very acute Wharncliffe-like tip in a way. I've got another true Wharncliffe here from Spyderco to show the difference with its completely straight edge. And that's why when I've talked about certain blade shapes before that are like this, and I've said this specifically about Spyderco and specifically about non-Wharncliffe and Delicas before, the way you cut with it, the way the blade actually interacts with whatever you're cutting, I try to talk about that in the way you're actually going to experience it. And yeah, it's really true. The kind of leaf-shaped style blades, like on this Spyderco, do work rather Wharncliffe-y, for example. You got a fun thing with this particular one too. So does it make them redundant? What was your word there? Let me check back. Yeah, does it make them redundant? No, I would say, because you still do have a little bit of a difference in the actual edge angle here, and that is going to affect how you go through certain cuts to some degree, whether it's an important degree or not, is honestly up to personal preference in a way. But yeah, very good observation, well spotted. Cardo Can says, if distal taper describes the blade geometry getting thinner as it goes from the handle to the tip, which is perfectly seen on this Spyderco right here. What is the proper term for a blade that gets thinner from the front of the handle to the butt of the handle to more balance the weight of the knife? That is just simply called a tapered tang. And you can see a perfect example of it here on this Allen Searles knife. What is this model called? It's a custom Knotley tapered tang fixed blade, 2 3/4 inch CPM 154 blade, handmade, really cool stuff. This is about $380 right now that we're selling this for. Get your hands on it. Really nice, but Allen does great work, and this is just a perfect representation of that. So distal taper, this knife doesn't really so much have that, a little bit, sure, but tapered tang there on the back. All right, next, Lloyd Squires. What's the best pocket knife steel for breaking down boxes? Thank you. You can check out, we did a cardboard slaying video at one point in the past, and through both results from there as well as hours of personal real world experience, because as knife people, we cut more cardboard than most people have to, but we do it because it's fun. And we get to use our knives and make excuses for why we have so many knives. 2 I really like. On the budget side, well, both steels are very good at the task. One you can get very inexpensively, D2, such as on this Krag CJRB exclusive. Works great. You got big, large, hard carbides that stand up really well to real abrasive medium like cardboard, because cardboard can kind of tear an edge up. Depending on the steel you're using, you could dull really fast, but D2 holds up really well to that sort of thing. If you want more edge retention and still good performance, K390 is one of my favorites. I have a non-Wharncliffe Delica that's one of my go-tos if I have to break down a big pile of cardboard to get it to fit inside the recycle bin. K390 works so well. It just keeps on cutting. It takes a lot to get it to feel dull. All right, last but not least, we finally come to our most serious question of the day, which comes from Kevin Stryker. I'm taking a trip to the center of the earth to visit the mole men. What is the best tool to cut through those annoying roots on my trip down? Well, good sir, you're gonna need 2 implements specifically to kind of survive or successfully navigate your trip below the crust. And 1, to get started, you're gonna need something to dig the hole. And I would recommend something like this. This is an Imikasa Hori Hori. Hori Hori translates dig dig. Can there be something more appropriate? Plus, you never know what you're gonna encounter down there. You could sharpen this up really nice and intimidate if you need to. These are like $16 too. Get a couple of them. You might break them on the way down. Gets a little crusty there. Then, when you do finally encounter those mole people, they're gonna be surprised to see you, quite honestly. And you don't want them to, kick you out, attack you, so to speak. I find in those sort of situations, a gift to the hosts, even though they didn't know they were going to be hosts at the time, a gift to the hosts goes a long way to kind of mollifying them and making them feel at ease and maybe even welcoming you in for a nice moly snack, so to speak. And for that, I would recommend this Nemesis knife for about $57. This is the Holy Moly, because there are holes and there you go. I hope that helps very much. That's all we've got for today. Keep leaving your questions, including your most serious questions, down in the comments below, and you'll have a chance to get them featured in a future episode. Let me know what you thought of the answers today. Let me know if you've got different answers as well. And if you want to get your hands on any of these knives, we'll leave links to everything we can to take you over to KnifeCenter.com. While you're there, of course, don't forget, we've got our Knife Rewards program, which means every one of these knives that you purchase, you're going to be earning some free money to spend on a future one. I'm David C. Anderson from the Knife Center, and that's Thomas behind the camera. We're signing off. See you next time.